Okay, it's time for us to take a look at EIGRP, named mode operations, and authentication. Now, in the confines of authentication, it's going to be pretty handy for us to focus on our topology. And I'll go ahead and take off all of this chicken scratch here, and we'll bring back our drawing. And let's see. With that being back, what I want to do is, again, start looking at our interconnections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my connection between R1 and SW1 and my connection between R1 and SW2, and I want to do authentication. So I'm going to use authentication to set up our configuration. Now first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on SW2. Now SW2 is going to be no different than the way we've done our configurations up to this point of our conversation, and that's going to be where we do our actual application with regard to our keychain. So what we'll do is we'll say config T, we'll say keychain. Let me see, do I already have one? Do show keychain. Check on R1, do show or show keychain. Check on cat1 just to be sure. All right, good to go. We don't have a keychain, so let's go ahead and make one. So we'll come up here and say config T. We'll say keychain EIGRP underscore auth. Key1, key string is going to be IPExpert. Okay, exit. Do, show, run, pipe, include, or section, keychain. Here it is. I'm going to grab all of this and we're going to put it on R1 and on SW2. All right, so now we got our keychain. Now what I'm going to do is on Cat2 is where I wanted to start. I'm going to go to interface, do show CDP neighbors. Let's find out which interface I want to go to. R1 is going to be Ethernet 01. And I'm going to say IP authentication. What am I doing here? Show run section router. Show IP protocols. Oh, I'm doing it on my interface again. So in this scenario, show CDP neighbors. I am peered to R1 on Ethernet 03. Show run interface E01. That's VLAN 201. Show run interface VLAN 201. And that's where I need to make my configuration. So interface VLAN 201. IP authentication mode EIGRP 10 MD5. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to also specify the key. So IP authentication keychain EIGRP 10, and my key string is EIGRP underscore auth. Now obviously I brought my link down, my neighbor relationship. Let's go over to R1 and see if we can't bring it back up. Notice it's down as a direct result of our authentication failure. So interface E01, IP authentication mode EIGRP 10. But see, the problem now is I'm on my interface. I'm on a device that's using EIGRP named mode. But let's go ahead and configure this configuration. IP authentication mode EIGRP mode is going to be MD5. IP authentication mode is going to be EIGRP, not mode, it's going to be keychain. Going to be EIGRP 10, and the keychain I want to use is EIGRP underscore auth. And let's see what happens. Show run interface E01. Well, notice I have my configs here. But what hasn't happened? Show IP EIGRP neighbors. Well, I'm paired with 11, so I'm paired with SW1, but I have no neighbor with SW2. Now the problem here is because, like I said, R1 is configured for named mode. So what I need to do is I need to understand, I need to make my configuration under the appropriate named mode section. So show run interface E01, config T, interface E01, no, let's get rid of this stuff. Now that it's gone, do show run interface E01. We need to put it in the right place. Do show run pipe section router. Actually, let's do show run all. Let's see what's going on here. Well, where do we put it? Well, we have AF interface default already. What I'm going to do is I want to put it under the interface for E01, but it needs to be for the autonomous family configuration for that interface. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab all of this and I'm going to plug it in, and that puts me in the proper configuration. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say AF interface, and the interface that I'm going to specify is going to be Ethernet 01. Now here what I'm going to do is I'm going to say authentication mode, and I'm going to say MD5. Now I want to call your attention here to we also have another mode called HMAC SHA-256. Now it's important to understand that MD5 in the day was pretty cool, but it's been attacked. It's been hacked. It's actually been bypassed, overcome, leveraged, whatever term you want to use. So what we do is we have to find ourselves looking at better ways to be able to assure that the devices that we are talking about are who they say they are. So what we'll do is we'll entertain this other advanced option, but right now let's see if we can't bring this link up between Cat2 and R1. So when I do this and hit my configuration here, authentication mode MD5, authentication keychain is going to be EIGRP _ auth, and hopefully, if I got my sums right, everything should come up and be operational, which we see it is. I have my new adjacency, do show IP EIGRP neighbors, and now I see the fact that I'm connected to Cat2. Now let's look at this. Do, or actually end, show IP EIGRP interface detail for E01. Let's see what it says. Notice here I'm looking at the output for E01 and it's giving me information, and it's telling me I'm using authentication mode MD5, and it's telling me what keychain I'm using, and the information that's provided to me makes it look like that configuration is under the interface. Let's take a look at that. Do or show run interface E01, and notice there's nothing under the interface. We tried to do it under the interface and it didn't take. What we ended up having to do was do or show run section router. And now what we've done is we've created a section under our configuration called AF interface Ethernet 01, where we applied our authentication configurations to that configuration or to that interface. So don't lose sight of the fact that it's very easy to just start banging away on the keyboard because you're in a big hurry, and if you forget that you're in named mode operation, you can put your configs in the wrong spot. It's the proper configuration, it's the proper syntax, however, it's not the right location for the particular operational mode of EIGRP that we may or may not be in. All right, now with that said, let's look at the other options. Let's start looking at how we can implement this same configuration, only what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new config. I'm going to say interface, router, EIGRP, and I think it's named with a D. Yes, named. Address family, IPv4, autonomous system 10. AF interface E00. Do show CDP neighbors 00 should be connected to Cat 1. Now on the confines here, I'm going to say authentication mode, and what I want to specify here is my HMAC SHA 256. So I'm going to say HMAC SHA 256. Now here's the issue here. Now when I go in and I look at this, that's my mode. Now what I can do is I can specify here a number of elements. I need to assign a password. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say my password is going to be IPExpert. And that's going to bring my link down. Authentication was set up to be HMAC SHA 256. So now let's take a look at this output and say show IP EIGRP interface detail for E00. Notice now it says my authentication mode is HMAC, but notice it tells me my keychain is not set. So let's go in and do another configuration here. So config T, router, EIGRP named, address family, IPv4, autonomous system 10, and I'm going to say authentication. Oh, I need to be into the right interface. So AF interface E00, authentication mode. The mode that I'm going to use here is going to be HMAC, which I've already done. Let's take a look at our keychain. So our keychain is going to be EIGRP _ off. Now let's see what happens. Look at the detail. Now it's telling me I'm using this keychain and my mode is HMAC. So now let's go over and take a look at this. Let's take a look at Cat 1. Cat 1 is also running in named mode. Do show run section router. No, actually Cat 2 is not running in this mode. So how can I bring my connection up? Well, in this, oh, I'm on the wrong device. Here we go. Exit, do show run section router. There we go. Now we're in named mode. Whoops. I hate it when I do that. Yep. All right, so config T. Let's go ahead, EIGRP named mode, plug it in. And I'm going to say AF interface. In this instance, I'm going to say E00, do show CDP neighbors. E00 should, oh, I'm sorry, E01 points over to it. So let me modify that. Okay, now let's say authentication mode is going to be HMAC. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to specify a password here, and I'm going to say Cisco. Then I'm going to say authentication mode or keychain EIGRP _ off. And let's see what happens with regard to our connection. Show IP EIGRP neighbors. Well, according to this, I'm only connected to R2. Let's do a debug and see what's going on. Debug, EIGRP, address family, IPv4. Let's see here. Let's just see if I can debug the whole stinking thing and see what happens here. We'll see if we've got anything going on here. Debug EIGRP packets. See if we got anything going on this way. Let's see if we get any hellos here. Now look here. It's telling me that I have authentication off or the keychain is missing. So let's take a look at this. You all. show run section router. Well, here's our AF. And notice I've got my keychain. The keychain should be configured properly. Show keychain IPExpert. Let's cut over to R1. Show keychain. IPExpert. Everything's good to go here. What's not good to go is show run section router. What's not good to go is the fact that on this interface I am using a password command here that says IPExpert. Well, let's take a look at what happens if I modify that. So I'm going to grab this entire line right here. Actually, I'll grab the whole thing. And let's see if I can't apply this to Cat 1. So config T. Let's see what happens now. Do show run section router. Well, we got a problem here. It didn't apply it onto the right interface. So let's come over and do this. So no AF interface 00. AF dash interface E01. Authentication mode HMAC SHA 256 IPExpert. Do show run section router. Let's see what we got going on now. Well, let's see. We have authentication mode is correct. Authentication keychain seems to be correct. Let's make sure we're in the right spot and everything's working the way we want it to. Show CDP neighbors. According to this, I'm connected to R1 on Fast Ethernet 01. Show run interface E01. Now notice here, we've got something odd going on. Well, when I did my config, show run section router, where did I put my config? I put my config under my AF interface for E01. Well, let's change that. Config T, router, EIGRP named, address family IPv4, autonomous system 10. And what I want to do is I'm going to remove this config here. So I'm going to say no, address family interface, AF interface, interface Ethernet 01. I'm going to say AF interface VLAN. Oh ho ho. So let's say here we've got VLAN 101 and let's hit enter. Now let's see if we can do this. EIGRP or authentication mode EIGRP, not mode EIGRP, HMAC, Cisco, authentication, keychain, EIGRP underscore auth. See if this brings our link up. Show IP EIGRP neighbors. So far nothing. Show run section router. Let's see what we have here. Well, now I've got VLAN 101. Let's make sure VLAN 101 is the right one. Show run interface VLAN 101. So that's 11. So let's see. Can I ping 10.1.1.1.1? Yes, I can. Everything seems to be reachable. Let's do a debug EIGRP packets, and let's see what's going on with our hellos. See if we get any other information telling us that we have a problem. Notice here it says invalid authentication. Authentication mismatch. Invalid authentication. Authentication mismatch. So let's view all this and take a look at our config. Show run interface E or VLAN 101. show run section router. Now what I did is I went ahead and used Cisco here again. So let's take that out. Let's go ahead and put the IPExpert in there. Router EIGRP named. And do IPExpert. Exit. Show run section router. And notice here I'm going to have this config. So let's see what's going on now. Debug EIGRP packets. And let's see what's going on now. We still have a problem. Notice it tells me I have an invalid authentication coming from 10.1.10.1.1. And I have an invalid opcode that's telling me invalid authentication from that same device. So let's go in and take a look at exactly what's happening here. So you all key 1 ID authentication mismatch. Well, let's look at this. Show run section router. And let's take a look at R1. Show run pipe section router. Let's see what we got in here. So 00 says we should be using these values. I'm going to grab a notepad session. Let me move my notes out of my way here. Just bear with me one moment. So I'm going to grab a notepad session, drag it over here, because I want to do a line-by-line comparison for these two things. And I'll shrink it. So right now, let's paste these in. So there is the configuration from R1. Now let's look at the configuration from Cat 1. So when we look at this, what we see here is everything seems to match. We have AF interface Ethernet 00. We have AF interface VLAN 101. Authentication mode is our HMAC SHA 256 IPExpert with the P capitalized. IPExpert with the P capitalized. EIGRP underscore auth, EIGRP underscore auth. So this should actually work. So let's take a look and see what's going on. So on this interface, config T, interface VLAN 101 shut. Let's see what goes on now. Can I no shut it? VLAN changed to up. Show IP EIGRP protocols. I'm sorry, show IP protocols. Let's see what we got going on here. Well, we're running it here for 101. Distance 90. Everything seems to be good to go there. Show CDP neighbors. So Ethernet 01 is pointed towards Cat 1. So let's take a look at it. Show run interface E00. Show run section router. Let's take a look and see what we have here for 00. So we have AF 00 authentication mode HMAC SHA 256 IPExpert. And on Cat 1, show IP EIGRP. No. Sorry, drew a blank. Show run section router. And we have mode HMMAC SHA 256 IPExpert. Authentication keychain EIGRP auth. Go over to R1. Authentication keychain EIGRP auth. That seems to be right. And we're using the authentication mode HMAC. And here we're using authentication mode HMAC. And we're using the same password. So let's take a look at this one more time. Config T. Authentication keychain. Well, we got a keychain off here. So authentication mode. We only have the HMAC and the MD5. Let's just create a keychain and we'll call it test. So let's say key 1. Well, we got key string, and we're good to go there. So, I mean, basically, the question is why isn't this interface coming up? So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. When we come back, let's do a little bit of troubleshooting and see if we can't figure out what's going on, and I'll see you guys in that part of the presentation. Bye-bye.